I'm going to give some examples of how you can use ChatGPT. ChatGPT can make your staff more productive. It can teach analytical thinking. It can teach programming. It can teach foreign languages. It can analyze data. And so much more. Now we're going to use ChatGPT version 4. The difference between version 3.5 and 4 is that 4 will run code in the application. Version 3.5, it would generate code, and then you had to run it yourself in a Python code interpreter or JavaScript or whatever. And also, ChatGPT 4 does data analysis, and then there's a lot of plugins written by third-party companies. Well, let's just give an example here. Okay, here's an example of its ability to do reasoning and solve word math problems. So let's say if Bob has 3 girlfriends and Sam has twice as many girlfriends as Bob, then how many girlfriends does Sam have? Not a very complicated math problem, but you can see this shows its ability to do math based on words. Now here's a more straightforward math problem. I'll just tell it to multiply these two algebraic expressions. Multiply these two numbers. These are not numbers, but they are algebra. And if you remember from high school or whatever, use the FOIL technique. First, outside, inside, last. So let's see if ChatGPT can do that. Multiply x plus 5 times x plus 3. Should be creating a polynomial for us. You see it says analyzing. That's what ChatGPT 4 does. So here it is. It's x squared plus 8x plus 15. Okay. Now let's give it another example here. Okay. This ability to do data analysis. Okay, let's ask it to find the mean and standard deviation of these numbers. Now these are numbers that I calculated from Python, where I told it what mean and what standard deviation to use. It's just easier than typing out a list of numbers. But you would use this in a business situation, based on a spreadsheet or some other live data that you had. Let's run it and see what it does. It's a small array. There it is. The mean is minus 0.077. Standard deviation is 2.981. Now that data set is a little bit small, but that gives an example. Now I use ChatGPT to teach myself Greek, since I live in Cyprus and I'm trying to learn Greek, but I also know French and Spanish. Language teachers, I believe, need to learn to use ChatGPT to teach, and students too, because it will not only correct what you write, it will teach you. For example, you can say conjugate verbs. You can say correct the sentence that are written here, and you can say not only correct it, it will tell you why what you wrote is wrong. Okay, first let's say let's ask it to conjugate the 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 verb aller in the present, past, future, and subjective tense for all pronouns. And more than that, I'm going to tell it format to use. I'm going to say okay, do this for every person and put it into column format. Do not put any explanation or examples. Because, often it'll write explanation and examples, which are good, but maybe you don't want that at all times. See what it looks like. You can see it's using what's called markdown syntax, which is a way to format data, into a way that's easier than using HTML. Now, it did not render this chart. I wonder why. Let's tell it here. Okay, finish rendering this chart. In other words, it did not turn it into a nice display. Just gave us the raw markdown. Creating image. It's not an image. Now you'll see here, we can work with ChatGPT, and as a human, it's quite sentient is the word. The guy Google said that AI is sentient, and he got in trouble for that. Meaning it's well, this is far off. This is far off. This is completely wrong here. Okay, but we can tell that. No. I mean, take that markdown table that you created above and render it as a formatted table. Only using text. No graphical image, please. Here it goes, it's creating the table again. It stopped. Let's try it, ask it again. But now let's say, okay, swap the order of the columns, past and present tense. Well, here's what we have. It's not rendering the markdown. Got some options here. What is this? We'll click bad response. Have ChatGPT. Don't like the style. Let's try this again. Okay, we could say here, list the capitals, all the 50 states in the United States. Put the format into a table. Did not do that again. So one option that we have here, let's downgrade. I'm going to switch from ChatGPT 4 to 3.5. Now, as of the time of writing this, 3.5 has really the horsepower behind it. It's the thing that Microsoft and OpenAI have spent billions of dollars standing up the infrastructure. ChatGPT 4 is often a little bit slower than ChatGPT 3.5. Now that doesn't explain this situation. Let's have it do it in 3.5, see what it does here. Now look at that, see? That's a beautifully formatted table. In other words, it created a markdown, but then it made a heading with gray background, nice borderlines. Okay, let's stick with 3.5 for a minute and see what we get. Okay. Now here's a question. What do you get when you mix red and white colors? You get pink. Okay. Let's give an example here now. French. One more language example, and that will be enough. Je voudrais vais à l'hôtel. I want to go to my hotel. Now I've conjugated this verb wrong. Let's see what it does with that. Oh, it's talking to me in French. Sorry. I'll say, correct this French, please. You'll find when you work with ChatGPT, you can also make bad spelling mistakes and leave out entire words. Okay, then now look. Now I did not explain it, so explain why what I wrote was wrong. What I wrote was wrong. There you go. It says the original sentence contains the verb voudrais and the verb vais, which is not grammatically correct. It still doesn't give me the explanation I want. I'm going to go back to Chat GPT 4. Now, when you do that, it clears the screen. See on the left here, it keeps your history, because this entire session goes to augment the Chat GPT model. You know, the Chat GPT model is a trained machine language model that cannot be changed. But what it can do, you can change it in the extent that it'll absorb your conversation. But that does not rebuild the Chat GPT model for all the users in the world. It just does it for this one session here. Because training the Chat GPT model took quite a long time. I mean, the version of Chat GPT 4, I believe, has data trained through 2 years prior. So it took Microsoft OpenAI 4 years to train the model, meaning calculate the coefficients and the neural network and so forth. Okay, so correct this French. Je voudrais aller à l'hôtel. I want to go to the hotel. See, it corrected it. Okay, why is what I wrote is what's why is what I wrote incorrect? It gives a complete explanation here. It says you want to use the infinitive form of the verb. That's correct. Now, let's ask it a question for Shakespeare. Now, let's type the question wrong. I mean, ChatGPT seems to work very well when you use very bad English. And by the way, you don't need to use just English. I'm gonna say, why the character Iago dropped Desdemona's handkerchief. So I put what the character Iago in Othello dropped Desdemona's handkerchief. That's pretty bad English. I mean, it's correct, but it's more of a type of typing mistake. Let's see what it can do. It can handle that. you study large language models, what they've done is they've taken all the words in English and all languages, and they've mapped them. They've taken the sentence and written it forward and backwards, so it can tell the difference between nouns and verbs and other articles. And it's done it for all languages. So anyway, here it goes. We say, Iago drops Desdemona's handkerchief because he's trying to make Othello angry because Cassio's wife picks it up and then gives it to Cassio. So anyway, as a Shakespeare tragedy goes, there's always someone trying to cause trouble. Now, one thing here, let's go back to ChatGPT 3.5. Now, if you use Perplexity AI, and you should be using Perplexity AI for searching, because Google gives you links, Perplexity AI gives you the answers. Okay, but ChatGPT 3.5, okay, let's see, let's ask it here. This will illustrate it. I'll say, will it rain in New York tomorrow? See, it says, I'm sorry, I cannot provide real-time information as my browsing capability is disabled. Well, it really just doesn't have that data, and that's in the future, right? So let's upgrade ChatGPT 4 just by clicking that little arrow at the top. We'll ask it again. Will it rain in New York tomorrow? How about that? That's the forecast. Okay, another example. Now remember, I'm putting in small examples here, but you can put in quite large ones. You can paste in an enormous amount of data into the prompt. Okay, let's say sort the names Sue, Sam, Shirley, and Stephen. Now, if we were doing ChatGPT version 3.5, it would only create Python code for us, which we would have to then copy into a Python environment and run it. But it ran it here and gave us the answer. Why is it giving us two answers? They're both the same. Anyway, let's see. Okay. Generate Python code for the question above. So it'll come back very simple little few lines of Python. Okay, then we'll say run that code in ChatGPT. That's what version 4 can do. It runs code inside ChatGPT. Plus, it doesn't require all this setup. It doesn't require that you install packages and so forth. So there it is. It ran it. Let me see here. I'm not even sure about this. Let's see. Okay, let's ask it to okay, let's see. Let me see if it can do this. Let's see. Create Python code to generate random numbers from the standard normal distribution using mean 0 and standard deviation 4. Then plot this as a pie chart using matplotlib. Let's see if we can do graphics. Now it generates graphical images, but let's see if we can do graphics in situ, in sight. So here's the Python code. If you don't know programming, it uses this package called NumPy to create numbers, and Matplotlib to create charts. Okay, so it's giving us this code. Now we could copy it to a Python environment. Let's ask it to run that Python. Just run that Python. See what it can do. Taking a second. There it is. We have that answer is not exactly what I wanted. It distributed the data between positive and negative. Now I could go back and ask it to plot it as a bar chart. It would look more like standard data. Let's move on to something else. But anyway, one point about ChatGPT is you often need to tell it it's wrong and have it go back and fix what you asked it to do. Now that means that you cannot turn just anyone loose with ChatGPT if they're working in some engineering or medical space. They got to have knowledge of the material. Otherwise, they won't recognize when it's completely wrong. The goal is to just make the employee, the scientist, the student more productive. Now, I think the last thing two more things I want to show. Okay. If you work with math problems, it's quite difficult to put into any kind of word processor. You have to use this markup language called latex. So let's say, okay, what formulas did the Scotsman Maxwell, right? Remember, he's the Scottish guy who, developed the theory between electricity and magnetism, electromagnetism, one of the most important discoveries in history. So here we go. So it explains, gives some history about who he is. Then it writes his rules. Now see this upside down delta and this epsilon with the subscript 0, quite difficult to do just by typing it. But ChatGPT is probably using and then rendering latex, LATEX, which is a markup language for mathematics. So say render these equations in latex format. See? Oh, don't turn it into latex. It's rendering it plus displaying it. You see the slash and the red. And we can ask it to stop. Where's the stop button? Stop. Okay. No, don't render. Render these equations. Just give me the latex. Give me the latex so I can paste it into a different program. See what it does now. Okay, there it is. That's the latex. You could put that into Microsoft Word or Google Docs and it will then render them. Okay, here's another one. It does simple regression. So we can say, okay, if we have determined that the correlation between hours studied for a test H and the grades G is G equals 4.5 times H plus 40. Then calculate the values 4, 4, 6, 7, and 8. Now, again, I'm being a bit vague. We're really saying calculate the grades for us. But, I'm leaving it incomplete to show you of ChatGPT's ability to fill in the logic, fill in what you're trying to say. Now, it will be useful to be able to put this data into a spreadsheet. So put those values in a comma delimited list suitable for loading into a spreadsheet. Oh, that's interesting. I've reached the usage cap. I run out. I'm paying, I think, $28 a month. Okay. I will step down to version 3.5 and see if it can handle that. I think it can. Okay, now, there it is. It put text and it put the comma delimited answers, but I'm missing something. I'm like, add the column. Okay, because they put grades for hours. There it is. So now you can copy that right into a file and put it into a spreadsheet. Now, this is a complicated thing that I wonder if 3.5 can do. Okay, what's the highest grade you can get on a test in the United States? Scoring system is 100, so we'll say calculate the point of diminishing returns. That's the point where the score is 100, but also, if you look at a math formula, whatever, it's the point at which any more effort is not going to increase the outcome. There it is. Figured it out. It's very clever. It's like a human being. So anyway, I hope that's useful. I will be glad to teach you more about ChatGPT, teach it to your staff so that you and your employees and your students become more productive. The goal of AI is not replace people, although it might be in some cases, but is to make people more productive. And these are some examples of how you can do that. Okay. Good day.